Hello guys, Mr. Walrus is here, and this is every episode of Simpson Season 1 reviewed. In this series, I will review every single Simpson episode, and before you say I'm mad or I have a lot of free time, I'm going to say that I don't know until which season I'm going to review. This series will last as long as it has to. Let's talk about Simpson history. The Simpsons were created by Matt Groening as source fields for the Tracy Ullman Show. Later, The Simpsons were bought by Fox to produce 20-minute episodes. The executive producers of these seasons were Matt Groening, Sam Simon, and Esther Brooks. The intention was to create an alternative family sitcom that would counteract the other TV families that, in these days, were quite cheesy. Also, in this first season, they wanted to narrate real problems of an average American family: marriage crisis, bullying, depression. In this review, as I based it in Pie Guy Rules reviews, I'm going to classify the episodes in 3 grades. Good episodes are those which are entertaining from beginning to end. They got solid plots, are funny, likable characters. Meh episodes are those which don't have much substance or those that have too many highs and lows. Dope episodes are those which really doesn't have almost nothing done well. Season 1, Episode 1, Simpsons Roasting Hope and a Fire. Marge spent all the Christmas savings on removing Bart's tattoo, so Homer will have to find a way to raise funds for Christmas. So, if you are attentive, in every episode you will see the production code. This time, the production code is 7G08. The two first digits it refers to the season, and the two last digits it refers to the order in which this episode was produced. In this case, this episode was the 8th episode to be produced. So, this episode was not going to be the first to be aired, but as it is the pilot, I expect an introduction of the characters of Springfield and its personality. We began with a first scene in the school that really it doesn't match with the rest of the story, and it really doesn't that funny, but it is the first time we meet Lisa and the naughty Bart. Curiously, we meet Skinner and Ralph before Bart and Lisa, but then we also see for the first time a lot of characters like the rest of the family, the relationship of Homer and Patty and Selma, or Homer and Flanders. We see Barney, we see Moe. Then we get into the plot. It is the typical Christmas story in which the family had to save Christmas, and at the end everything finished as it is desired. In this case, Homer wants to find a way to get money for presents. I don't know why Homer doesn't want to tell Marge the problem, as he really doesn't do anything wrong. And finally Homer could get money for saving Christmas. No, the things doesn't happen as they expect, but in exchange they adopt Santa's little helper, and that was enough to have their best Christmas. This was a really emotional moment, and I love that we have an unpredictable ending. Also, here we meet Santa's little helper origin, and such as this is a good introduction for the series, I think this is a good episode. Season 2, Episode 2, Bart the Genius. Bart cheats on an aptitude test and is consequently considered a genius. So, I like the beginning when all the family was playing Scrabble. Curiously, the word Kujibo was included in the dictionary after this episode. Then we get into the plot, and we meet Martin for the first time, and his rivalry with Bart Simpson. When Bart was doing the aptitude test, we have a weird scene in which Bart was thinking about the exam's answer. The animation that it's presented is just not typical for the series. And of course, as Bart had exchanged his exam with Martin's, he consequently was considered a genius. So the scenes of Bart in the smart class were cool, but sometimes it feels that you had to be as clever as the kids to understand the dialogue and the jokes. Most of these jokes were explained in the book Simpsons and Maths, and maybe if you don't have this math knowledge, you will not understand these jokes. But it's funny to see how the smart kids trolls Bart. It's interesting to see how Homer became closer to Bart when he thought that he was a genius. Maybe a psychological explanation is that Homer thought that Bart could get what he couldn't get, be smarter than someone. And of course, that makes sense that he would get so angry when he found out that Bart cheated on the test. In terms of jokes, it's not a continuous laughing, but it has its moments. The opera scene is funny. Also, Skinner was funny in the episode too, so maybe this episode has little laws, but are not laws enough to don't call this episode a good episode. Season 1, Episode 3, Homer's Odyssey. Homer is fired from the nuclear plant and becomes depressed because he can't support his family. So this is the first time we watch Homer at job, and we learn how he obtained his occupation of security inspector. The episode introduced characters like Otto, which first appearance was really funny. Also, characters like Sergeant Terry, Mr. Vance, and the Smithers were introduced. It is weird to see the design of the Smithers in this episode, but it doesn't bother me at all, as it is season 1 and characters design weren't settled yet. Also, Mole Coles and Marto was introduced. So yes, this is an episode that we have a lot of introductions. The first act was decent, so we got a long, boring sequence about laughing Joe. The problem really came in second act. The story became so depressive, and nothing funny happens during this act. Homer's trying suicide just went too far, as he really not had a solid reason to do it. Seriously, how his family got less problems if Homer committed suicide? Then we see the rest of the family trying to save Homer's life, but was Homer the one that saved them from an accident car? And thought it is nice to see Homer worrying about his family's security. Really, the plot of Homer's versus security, it comes suddenly and for nowhere. It is a messy plot if you think about it. At the end, Homer was contracted again in the nuclear plant, and really, there wasn't any good reason to do it, especially because he was the employee who most accidents has caused. Later in the series, we learn about another stories in which Homer obtained his job, and really are more convincing stories than that one. So yes, I think this is a dope episode. Season 1, Episode 4. There's no disgrace like home. Homer is embarrassed by his family's behavior at Van's picnic, so he decides to go to family therapy. So well, this episode is known because the family were out of character in Van's picnic. Lisa behaved naughty and Marge got drunk in Van's picnic. But I can buy all this mischaracterization as it is season 1 and character's personality were not solidified yet. Also, I buy Homer's worrying about his family in the picnic, and he wanted to look well in front of his boss. When Homer noticed that his family is not a model family, he tries his best to become better. And this is why Homer is really likable in this episode. It is not common to see Homer scarifying his TV for the benefit of his family. The episode was funnier than the last 3. The brute joke is just a classic, and we have many funny moments like Simpson spying on other families or the Marvin Monroe's therapy. It was unpredictable that the therapy didn't result at the end, but it is worth it because they were able to recover the TV. So as the characterization problems doesn't mind at this time, I think this episode is a good episode. Season 1, Episode 5, Bart the General. Bart organizes a kids' army against Nelson. This is the first episode written by John Swartzwelder, a personal favorite. His episode has a lot of old reference and absurd humor. And this one, it's the first episode that I really feel that don't have any filler scenes. Even it's longer than the 4 episodes before. Here is presented the typical bully story. We have a Bart that wants to defend Lisa, and we have a Nelson that is more intimidating than usual. Maybe Nelson is not taken too deeply a few other episodes, but it doesn't matter, as it is his first appearance. The reason that the episode is original and not the cliché bully story, it is because it's war atmosphere. I think that it is a creative and clever idea. Also, Herman and Grandpa were funny, as they taken a kid's situation that seriously. Even we have a balloon final battle and a peace treaty, so how more what can I want? Maybe the training scenes were a little repetitive, but it really doesn't care because it doesn't that long. The episode is also one of the funnier of the first season, so I think that it's really clear that this is a good episode. Season 1, Episode 6, Morning Lisa. Lisa falls into depression. Meanwhile, Homer tries to beat Bart at video boxing. First time you see this episode, feels like Lisa is in depression because no apparently reason really. Many of the scenes is Lisa being sad and it's boring and not funny at all. Anyway, I emphasize two scenes. The scene in which we met Bleeding Murphy the first time, it's iconic. It feels like a classy scene, and Murphy is a funny character. The other scene I love is the ending, when Marge said to Lisa that she had to hide her problems. We noticed that the reason that Lisa was depressed is because she wasn't being herself, and here is where we start to understand Lisa. So maybe this episode is one that you enjoy more when you are more mature. Well, as I said before, there's a subplot in which Homer tries to beat Bart in a video game. I didn't find that story that interesting, honestly. I know that this episode is the favorite of season 1 for many, and really, I can understand why, but it's not for me. So I give this episode a episode. As I said, I like the lesson of the episode, but I can ignore that sometimes it's too slow for me. Season 1, Episode 7, The Call of the Simpsons. The Simpsons go to the forest, where they get lost. Later, Homer is found and mistaken for Bigfoot. The beginning was really funny. We know more about Homer's envy towards Flanders, and also we meet Cowboy Bob. It is a really funny and charming character. The only bad thing about him is that he doesn't appear in more episodes. Then the family buys a caravan and gets lost into the forest. It's really funny to see how Homer pretends to be a forest expert. As the episode was written by John Swartzwelder, we can see that the episode is really surrealistic for season 1 standards, and sometimes feels cartoonish. That would not be bad at all, but at that moment of the show, The Simpsons was trying to be a realistic cartoon. The sense of Maggie and the Bears feels very cartoonish, and the idea that Homer was mistaken with Bigfoot, it is just so silly and unbelievable. I would like to like this episode more than I do, as the beginning was really funny. But we have a poor last act, so this episode is a meh episode. Season 1, Episode 8, The Telltale Head. Bart decapitates the steward of Jebediah Springfield to impress Jimbo, Dolph, and Kearney. However, the entire town gets shocked. Maybe this is the most famous episode of Season 1. A series like South Park had parodied it. In this episode, again, we meet a huge number of characters. We meet Lovejoy, Krusty, Bob, and of course, Jimbo, Dolph, and Kearney. Also, Jebediah Springfield was introduced, and we know more about Springfield's history. I like the structured episode. The flashback format makes the episode sound special, and really it's not a format that we see in the show too much. The episode begins with a chart scene that doesn't connect with the rest of the episode, but it doesn't mind because really it was my favorite part. Then we get into the plot, and presents Bart wanted to feed with the bad guys. This kind of situation, it is just so true to real life that I buy it. Also, I can understand why Springfieldians feel so disgusted when the statue was decapitated. Maybe Jimbo, Dolph, and Kearney were most hypocritical because they literally said that they wanted the head statue to be cut. The end, well, is a little bit tabloid, to be honest, as Springfield forgives Bart really easily. It feels that writers don't have enough time to write a more satisfying ending. Anyway, this episode is an entertaining one, so this is a good episode. Season 1, Episode 9, Life on the Fast Lane. Marge begins to feel attached to her bowling instructor, Jax. I'm gonna say something, guys, I really hate marriage crisis episodes. Much of them start with Marge getting angry because something insignificant that Homer does, and then Homer and Marge has an uncomfortable conflict. Maybe to write this type of episodes well, it could be hard, so that's why I appreciate this episode. This is a marriage crisis episode, well do it. At the beginning, Homer seems to not be worried about Marge. He not only forgets her birthday, but also buys her a present that really was for him. So it is understandable that Marge gets angry and distant with him. Then appears Jax, who gives Marge the attention that Homer don't give her. So it is natural that she gets attracted by him. Also, it is worth to mention the good job of James Brooke as the voice actor of Jax. The Homer sad scenes were shocking. He has never been told that his marriage going badly, but he really feels it. Maybe you think that these scenes are depressive, but really are not taking too long for being that depressive. Also, I like Bart and Lisa going in different phases. There's a point in which Marge had to decide between Homer and Jax, and of course, everybody knows with whom is going to go. But the ending in which Marge enters to the nuclear plant to meet Homer is just too emotional. I can't blame you if you cry in this scene. In terms of comedy, it is not a continuous laughing, but really it is not an episode that you will see for its comedy, but for its drama. And how this episode manages drama is make this a good episode. Maybe you can say that it's unfair that I give this episode a good rating and Morning Lisa a meh rating, as both episodes are more a drama than a comedy. But in Morning Lisa, we didn't know why Lisa was sad until the end. But in Morning Listen, we didn't know why Lisa was sad until the ending, so we can't understand the drama until the ending at all. Season 1, Episode 10, Homer's Night Out. Bart takes a photo of Homer dancing with a belly dancer. When Marge sees the photo, she kicks Homer out of the house. The beginning was a little poor, and honestly, we watched Bart getting a mini camera and making grossy photos like a rabbit's run over, and that's it. Really? The plot starts when Bart caught and made a photo of Homer dancing with Princess Kashmir, and that's it. They were only dancing. The main problem of this episode is that Homer never does anything wrong or morbid, so there's a lot of things of this episode that I don't buy. I don't buy Old Springfield getting upset with the photo, and I don't buy Matt kicking out of the house Homer like he had cheating on her. Do you remember why I don't usually like Marriage Crisis episodes? Just Marge getting angry because something insignificant happens. Later, she revealed that she was angry because Homer had taught a bad lesson to Bart, but there are two problems about that reasoning. First, Homer danced with the princess without knowing that Bart was watching him, and second, if that was really the reason, why she kicked out Homer from his house? Also, the moral about don't treat women like an object is just stupid because in any moment of the episode, women is treated like objects. Also, the episode is lack of jokes. The only moment I found a little bit funny, it is Van asking Homer about how to be successful with women, and that's it. So yeah, I think that it is clear that this episode is a dud episode. Season 1, Episode 11, The Crux of Wrath. Bart is sent to France on an student exchange trip. Meanwhile, an Albanian student, Adele, takes Bart's place in the Simpson family. In the beginning, we watch more about Bart pranks, and they are really funny. Above all, the explosive cherry prank. It is the first time we meet Agnes Skinner, and she didn't seem as surly as she used to be. So all fine until we get into the plot. Bart is deported to France and an Albanian child takes his place. I confess that both plots were a little weird for me, so I'm going to analyze them by separate. Bart goes to France to be exploited by two peasants. I don't think that, really, in real life, the exchange programs could permit that. Also, the fact that the story happens in France is irrelevant. Think about it. The story could happen in Italy, and we can have the same story. So I can expect more from a travel episode. And I don't find too believable Bart can speak friendly French at the end of the episode. The Albania Kids plot is slightly better. Yeah, it's a weird story too. And the plot twist in which we notice that Abel is a spy, it doesn't sound too realistic. But we have some funny moments. I love it how Homer becomes fond of Abdel, and how he didn't suspect him. So I think this episode has its highs and lows, so I'm going to call it a meh episode. Season 1, Episode 12, Krusty Gets Busted. Krusty is convicted of armed robbery of the Cricket Mart, but investigates the crime to prove Krusty's innocence. Well guys, I really love Sideshow Bob episode, so how can I not love an episode that shows us Sideshow origin? As soon as the episode begins, we notice that Bob had really good reasons to hate Krusty. It is like he was exploited by him in Krusty's show. Also, I love how the episode makes clear that Bob could be a Krusty's enemy. And I love how the episode reveals that Bob set a trap for Krusty before he was discovered. Let's talk a little bit about Krusty. I always thought that Krusty was really childish in the first 3 seasons. In this episode, well, it's not the exception, but this clown was funnier than he used to be. I love when the kids say that if Krusty was cancelled, they would commit suicide. It's just so censurable for nowadays. Anyway, we have a good development about Krusty. We learn that he has a peacemaker and he is illiterate, 2 details that will be remembered for later episodes. Also, the episode set up the clues to the mystery really clever, as Krusty would not have been able to get close to quick microwave or to read a magazine. And also, how forget that Bob have big feet like the robbery clown. The episode is funny, clever, and settle one of the best secondary characters. So I think this is a really good episode. Season 1, Episode 13, Sun Enchanted Evening. Homer and Marge go out at night, while leaving the children under the care of a diabolical babysitter. Fun fact, this episode was to be the first to be broadcast, but they delayed it because it wasn't in the Fox quality radar, and honestly, I can see why. First of all, the episode is really forgettable, and its lack of memorable or funny moments. I only remember laughing 4 times, and 2 of them were the most cool pranks. And even though it is my favorite part of the episode, it really isn't nothing special, as we can see the prank calls in another episodes. Then, do you remember again why I don't like Marriage Crisis episodes? In this episode, we have Marge getting furious with Homer, even pretending to separate him, when he really doesn't do anything. I can understand why Marge can get frustrated because Homer doesn't give her too much attention, but her reaction was just too unfair. Maybe the real culprit of Marge's anger was Marvin Monroe. He was a really toxic controller in this episode. The second part of the episode, it wasn't better. A babysitter had to take care of Bart and Lisa, while Marge and Homer had his date. And surprise, the babysitter is evil and dangerous. This plot twist, it is just weird and silly. Do you think that a babysitting company will send a evil nanny to Simpson's home knowing that she is evil? Also doesn't never care about Marge and Homer's date. It's just felt like filler scenes. And I'm not used to criticize the animation, but in this episode it's just really poor. And the babysitter looks so weird. Also the ending when the nanny runs away feels really unsatisfying. She deserves to be trapped by the weight of love. So the final season episode, it is a dull episode. And that's it. Every Simpson Season 1 episode reviewed. In my favorite episode from the season we have, in number 5, Moaning Lisa. You don't understand why Lisa is sad until the end, and because many of the scenes are Lisa being sad for no apparent reason, sometimes it feels boring and slow. In number 4 we have The Grapes of Wrath. It is a really weird episode. The plot in which Bart is exploited by 2 French peasants is surrealistic, and the subplot in which the Simpsons foster an Albanian boy who turned out to be a spy is unbelievable too. Number 3, Homer's Odyssey. The episode in Act 2 turns too depressive, and it is a little bit messy too. Number 2, Homer's Night Out. There's no real conflict in this episode. Homer hasn't done anything wrong to be kicked out of his house, or nothing morbid to be recognized by the city, and the moral of don't treat the women like objects is not executed well in this episode. And the worst episode of the season, Sun Enchanted Evening. So yes, I didn't find this episode very charming, Marge getting really angry with Homer with no reason, a silly and weird plot of a evil babysitter, and almost no jokes at all. In the 5 best episodes from the season we have, in number 5, The Telltale Head. It is a solid episode in which realistic situations are dealt with, like Bart wanted to be liked by the bad guys, or the patriotic feeling of Springfield. Maybe if the ending wasn't too abrupt, this episode could be higher. In number 4, Simpsons roasting open a fire. It is a good introduction for the family and some characters of Springfield, and we have a really touching ending. In number 3, Life on the Fast Lane. This is maybe the best crisis marriage episode of the show. The drama it carries well, Matt's relationship with Jax feels natural, and we have a really touching ending too. Number 2, Bart the General. It is the typical bully story, do it creative. I love the war atmosphere that the episode has. And my best episode for the first season is Krusty Gets Busted. We have the genesis of Sideshow Bob. The whole mystery is cleverly set up, and a non-family character, Krusty, is developed. So in terms of statistics, we have 7 good episodes, 3 meh episodes, and 3 dull episodes. As you can see, a little bit more of the half of the season is good, but the other half not so much. So I think season 1 really worth watching it. Yes, I do. It is a good season. Okay, maybe don't have the best animation or the stories are a little bit slow, but since the show was just starting, I understand that it may have these problems. Furthermore, we must not forget that this season has offered us the foundations of one of the best series in history.